Are you ready for the heavyweight championship of the world? Are you ready?
All right. How you doing, Mr. Gordon?
All right, all right. How's it going?
It's going great. Are you ready to step into this ring?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, Mr. Gordon, thank you so much for gracing our platform with your presence. You are a icon. Your group was an icon in what this genre of R&B and just music in general. So again, thank you so much for being here. We truly appreciate it.
No problem at all.
All right, so let's go ahead and start it up. When did you have that feel for music?
The feel for music. Well, I love music from elementary school on, but originally it was kind of like get out of class type thing. So I was able to get out of class for an hour or so, and that initially sparked it. But I gradually got my feel over time as I started growing into doing different instruments and learning technique and stuff like that. So I started, it was a learning process all the way through. Even after we had a record deal, I was still learning. It's a evolution. You keep learning.
Mm-hmm.
You said my bad, Bill, but you said we. So I'm assuming the we is the LeVert brothers. So you mentioned a record deal. My question to you guys is, how did that come up on the table, and then how were you involved in that process? Because obviously those two being related. And then yourself, like, what was the friendship like, and just like the partnerships like behind the scenes to lead up to the record deal?
Well, it was my mom knew their mom, and that's how it all came together. Not really knowing, each other's side and what was going on. You know what I mean? But I found out once I pull up and I'm at the house, and at the time they lived on South Park in Shaker Heights, and over there is a lot of mansions and stuff like that. So it kind of gave me an indication that something was going on, that they had they've been doing something, and but the friendship was was a brotherhood. So our common denominator was the music. You know what I mean? That was probably that's probably first before the friendship.
Gotcha. So I did some reading. You played the violin.
Yeah.
Viola.
Yeah.
I had a few years I played the violin as well, 7th through 9th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
You want to play it?
I played it. I played 7th through 9th grade, so the whole classically trained at that point in time. Stopped because I wanted to try my luck in basketball. The Michael Jordan thing came on, and I should have just stayed with music, to be honest with you. And you played trombone and you played piano.
Yeah.
I kind of look at people who play an instrument, whether they're classically trained or they play by ear. They have a talent, just like someone who plays basketball or a painter and so forth. What was your journey like learning these instruments?
Well, like I said earlier, I initially got into music to get out of class. So that was in elementary school. So elementary school, the director came by, and the director in the community with the high school, junior high, and it was the same music directors. So they came by the class, and they're recruiting at this point to pull in some up and coming musicians, because at that time we probably had one of the top high school marching bands also. So it was like, their philosophy, which makes sense, was to start recruiting early, start getting them trained early. And, I have to say our class was probably like the, most, we had like a lot of talent in our class and, coming up. So, the transition was the more I got in tune with, the violin actually helped me, help tune my ear to, I started listening, for things in instrumentations, instrumentals, and start picking out the different sounds and production and how it all came together. So I was intrigued by that. But along the way, of course, you listen to the radio, and on the radio at the time, radio was kind of a multicultural mixed bag of everything. So you got a chance to hear James Brown, OJ's, John Lennon, Eagles, or whatever. You got a chance to hear all kinds of styles of music, and so it intrigued me a lot. And once I was playing the violin, I was reading, but my mind was telling me I wanted to play the songs on the radio, and I couldn't play the songs on the radio with the violin. At least at that time, I was, it was beyond me. So I had one of my, bandmates who knew a little bit of piano. He played sax, and he taught me the chords to one song, and that was Mr. Magic. It was, like, oh, okay, that's it. And I started playing it, and next thing you know, I was in the practice room working out on the piano, just trying to figure out stuff that, that I could learn. And I discovered that I had more of an ear at this point to figure out songs. And from there, it was like the piano was it. Originally I wanted to play drums, but moms wasn't having that. So, it went from the loudest thing to the softest thing. And that's, so I was, looking back, I was happy that I went that route, because it helped train my ear.
Gotcha. And so you went ahead and took the piano and ran from it with that. Did you end up taking any lessons or anything to get a sense of it, or did you use the what you learned from the violin as far as reading the your bars and everything? Did you take that over to the piano?
Well, no, I really was learning by ear, really the songs that I heard on the radio.
Okay.
And that's what sparked it. And as I started, the more I learned by ear, then eventually I took some lessons. But by that time, I'm like, man, I can do my own thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
you got your sweet spot.
It kind of, in a way, it stopped me a little bit from, going through with, the school and the technique and all of that, because I'm thinking I'm doing something, I'm writing songs or whatever. And, so that was like to me, like a drawback.
It's a pro and con with that. On one hand, you got the raw talent, and then you know what I mean, but you are lacking the technical part. So here's a question. So like, you leave the practice room, right? And then you graduate to, okay, you guys are waiting in the wings behind the OJs. So can you explain the type of pressure you're under to basically, because you guys are almost, at the time, you're being showcased as the second coming of the OJs. So what type of pressure were you guys under?
By that time, the pressure was over, only because by that time we had already went under all the pressure, all kinds of other pressure just to get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
it's house money at this point.
It's
almost like it's house money at this point.
Yeah. It was a thing to where, you know, we had rehearsed so much that it was just like, you know, it was just like clockwork, you know, and so all of the things that happened prior to propelled us to do what we were doing. You know what I mean? So, for instance, like, you know, when Eddie first took us in the studio, he took what we did in the studio and sent it to his friends and people in the industry and executives and this and that, and you know, expected to, you know, get some kind of situation, and they all turned us down. So, you know, that experience didn't stop us from, you know, continuing the journey. You know what I mean? It just made us stronger. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, so by the time we got to the place where we were opening up for OJs or doing shows with OJs, we were kind of seasoned. We had been through the Chitlin circuit. You know, we had opened up for other national acts. And, you know, so that had already, you know, gave us the you know, the energy to really do what we were doing at that point, at that level, you know.
So you're the third artist that we've interviewed from Cleveland. Our first was Joe from Rude Boys, Joe Little, our guy, and we interviewed Men at Large as well.
Okay.
So there's a trend going on here. You got OJs, you got you guys, you got Men at Large, you got Rude Boys. There's true singing talent coming out of the city of Cleveland. And I know a host of others who probably, you know, within the city that, you know, didn't maybe make it to the same levels that you guys did. Right. Was there an expectation set, whether written or unwritten, that was set for any artist to come after you guys?
As far as that was in our camp?
Just anybody from the city.
Well, I don't know about everybody else. I guess everybody has their own goals and what they want to, you know, strive for to achieve and whatnot. So I'm not sure how everybody else, but I felt like there was a goal set to, you know, for artists that we put under our banner. And, you know, and I think for the most part, we've, you know, was able to do that. And, you know, and it is a lot of other talent in Cleveland for sure. No doubt about it. I don't know, you know, what's the, you know, the goals that they have or how they go about it or what's the situation. Yeah. But, you know, just to kind of let everybody know that it wasn't no easy road for us just because we had, you know, Eddie LeVert as a mentor or as the guy that was, you know, putting things in order. In the beginning, it wasn't no easy road for us.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that if I'm a new artist coming up and I see all you guys and I know the powerful singers that you guys had in your groups and individually and so forth, I knew that my vocals would have to be on point. I can't come out because the bar. I guess more so I'm thinking like if singing is already here because of what was already set that you guys have set, I can't come in with lackadaisical vocals or work ethic.
Yeah, and we were, you know, like it was already acts and groups and singers that was out there prior to us. We kind of hit the scene and started doing stuff around Cleveland, and that's when people start really hearing about us. You know, after, you know, a few good festivals and this and that. It's like, you know, we weren't we were basically unheard of before that.
Yeah.
You know, there was no, you know, we hadn't set no track record. We were young. You know, you're talking about 17 and 18 years old, going into bars and lounges and clubs, doing 2 or 3 sets, and not old enough to be in there. You know what I mean? So, you know, so we were virtually unknown prior to our independent record, which, you know, put us on the map nationally.
Yeah, and you mentioned the independent record being put on the map nationally, and I do think a lot of people. Earlier you said that the road wasn't easy for you guys initially, but a lot of people tried to put that badge on y'all that the road is easy. The OJs are there, right? However, it's the second album, the sophomore album, that I feel like you guys you earned the respect. You had it with the first, but I think with the second album, you and Gerald basically flexed your muscle on that sophomore album when it came to the writing and the production, right? So now it's like you guys, if there's any question at all, there's no stone left unturned to where, no, we really out here and we're writing the material, like we're producing the material. Whose idea was it for you guys to get more involved behind the scenes in regards to the production?
Well, we were always writing, and that's what, you know, that's what sparked it. Was, you know, in the beginning, I had no idea that I was going to do this or be on the stage and be a part of a hit group, or I had no clue to none of that. You know what I mean? So it was more so that we found a chemistry in music to where we had ideas that we could, you know, he had that voice and I had ideas musically, and it was a match, you know, and the chemistry that's just, for me, it's unmatched for, you know, for what we were able to accomplish. And but no, the sophomore album, you know, it was a little different as far as you know, the writing and production. We didn't officially start getting the production, you know, banner until Just Coolin'. We had assisted, you know, but we were put together with other people that was doing this and that and the other. And then, you know, we would be involved with it, as far as I would play some stuff or, you know, whatever, but it would be other people that was getting the production credit. We songs, you know what I mean? We still like Pop Pop. We wrote that song. It was produced by some people in Cali. Craig, I can't think of his name, but no, Craig T is one of the guys, and I was thinking of the other guy who was really the main producer, but he did some stuff back in the day. Anyway, it was still even a gradual process, but when Just Coolin' hit, that was our official, real first album that we had the production on, and we had our stamp on it at this point.
Gotcha. And if I could jump to that third album, I just remember that album. Guys got that suit on, yellow, and is it like a
yellow, purple, and
like a purple and
cross colors.
Yeah.
He was in my
I would definitely remember that album, but I can tell you that my favorite song from LeVert,
right,
is "Baby I'm Ready."
Okay,
that's my favorite song from LeVert, and following that would be "All Season."
Okay, same.
Those
album.
2 songs. Those 2 songs. I think that if I had to, I guess if anyone to ask me what is late 80s, early 90s R&B, I can play either one of those two songs. As far as writing, the voice singing, and the production, that's late 80s, early 90s R&B ballads to the max, right? Can you, I just have to know, tell me about, or can you tell me about the creation of Baby I'm Ready?
Baby I'm Ready. Baby I'm Ready. You know, we work in different ways. Sometimes we'll be together, and a lot of times, especially when we moved from the big house that we called the big house, that was their house. We moved from the big house, and everybody, now we have our separate places. And so now I would sometimes slip Gerald, you know, a cassette or a CD, and he go and write to it. That's pretty much what happened with Baby I'm Ready. All seasons, we did some of the idea in the studio, so that was kind of collective. But when we went in and did Baby I'm Ready, you know, I had the idea, the skeleton idea, and so when we went to go do the vocals, we did the backgrounds, and so Gerald went in to do the you know, the lead. And at this point, you know, we had a lot of times we would do stuff, and you know, Gerald, because of his ambition and voice, you know, he would just do a lot of stuff. And so that would mean I would have to go in and tweak some things or take something out or whatever the case is. But on this particular song, Baby I'm Ready, he went in and sang that song straight down, and it was done. It was like, that's it. It's nothing else to do right here. This is the rap. And so it was, you know, it was a lot of, you know, a lot of fun times. Like I said, the chemistry was something special, that, you know, it's just, you know, I look back at it and it just be like, wow, you know, sometimes I'd be amazed at just some of the things that we were able to do and accomplish, that it really happened. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know, so yeah, that right there, that chemistry and bond is such a, you know, such a loss now today, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, like, it's mind-boggling to hear you talk about sending cassettes over, because like, I know that the internet is the thing now, but back in the day, I just assumed like every person that I heard on the record was in the studio at the same time. But you guys were still able to capture that synergy, even though you're sending them a tape and then he's writing, you know, to the production. So I do want to mention some folks that you guys shared a studio session with. Now,
Yeah.
you may or may not have been in the studio with these guys, but in regards to chemistry, keeping up with that theme. So obviously, Gerald, yourself, you guys got Eddie, Heavy D, LeVert, M Tune, Reggie Calloway. I think he's an unsung producer. And then Missy Elliott, right? You worked with a lot of these folks. When you talk about chemistry, were you guys able to capture any memorable moments with some of those artists that I just named, to where anything that you want to speak about?
Let's see. Yeah, I'd have to think about it, but you know, every session is different. So it's like, it could be a lot of things. I know in the early recordings, we were recording out of Philly, and so we were recording out of Sigma Sounds, and it was pretty costly to record there, and eventually we end up, you know, switching it up and put together our camp to, you know, do it out of Cleveland. But as far as I'm trying to think of something that it can be. it's just a lot of, I don't know. It's just being able to put something together. A lot of times what we would do, especially working with other artists, we would normally have the song already together. So when they get it, it would be a demo with Gerald singing. And
so they have a reference.
Yeah, they have a reference and be in the backgrounds, which a lot of times we would leave the backgrounds where it is. The one thing I can say about working with Reggie Calloway is it taught me, that particular session taught me on being a producer as far as knowing what you want and getting that out of the artist. So basically what I mean is what I said like a few minutes ago about how Gerald would go in and just be singing everywhere. So it would be left for, some tweaking afterwards because everything couldn't stay. I'm saying now in the case of doing Casanova, that was probably Gerald's hardest song to sing.
Because he had to like pull it back. Why?
Well, that's part of it. He had to pull back some of the things that he would normally think would just go. You know what I mean? But Reggie Calloway had another plan. Like, no, do it like this, or no, I don't. All the extra stuff. He didn't want all the extra stuff. He just wanted what he wanted, and that was that. So it can come off as frustrating when you're doing it, especially if you feel like you're a talent by yourself without somebody telling you. But now you have a producer kind of directing you like, yo, I want it to be this.
Yeah.
So anything off from that, it would change what he had in his mind as a producer. Now, sometimes that could be good because it'll be something that you didn't think of and you'd be like, oh, okay, keep that. But in this case, he had a time with just sticking to the script. And that was probably the longest vocal session that he had in his career.
In hindsight,
he might have did some other stuff later on because I know he worked with David Foster and some other people. But I think in my experience, that was probably his hardest session with the group
to date, for sure. And then hindsight's 2020, but at the time, after you heard the finished product, Casanova, did you know it was a hit, or was there some skepticism?
No, we all felt because I'm trying to say, I think we heard it before, and then when we finished it, it was kind of more confirmation that we felt it was going to be, a hit.
Do you think that a lot of times, do you, as an artist, do you feel like everything that you write is a hit? Or could be potentially a hit?
Well, I believe that everything possibly could be a hit. I don't know if I'll say that it's going to be. It's up to the people, really. You know what I mean? And I think, it's easy to get, that vibe and feel like, yo, everything I think part of that comes with the territory. And, I know Gerald probably felt a certain way about certain things, like it's going to be this. I felt it like, I think a young person that's, come up in the mix and they've been able to do some things and have a little success, they probably feel like, I'm good like that. You know what I mean? And you put more on it than maybe what it really is. So it's easily to, get into But I learned over time that is, eventually, it's up to the people. It's up to, I just feel if you give me a equal opportunity as far as exposure, then I think I have something that will be competitive in the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
you had a lot of them.
Yeah, and I do. Well, number one, you guys coming out of Cleveland, I would say, even in that era, I was more used to groups coming out of bigger markets. You know what I mean? Like even I'll even give Philly that bigger market. New York,
New York.
You also got the West Coast. So when it comes to in spite of not getting, your fair handshake when it came to promotion, I think you guys still broke. And some of the guys that I want to bring up are artists that you guys actually collaborated with or wrote for. So you guys written for and produced for Troop, friend of the show. We had John on here, Minute Large, great guys, friend of the show. Immature as well. This is back when male R&B groups reigned supreme, right? Why don't we see a lot of R&B acts today?
Because labels are not promoting them. So
if you had to speculate, go ahead. If you had to speculate, it sounds like you're about to answer it as well. Why do you think, what would be the incentive for them not to promote R&B male groups?
Well, I was about to say, I'm gonna answer that too, but I was about to say that how can I say, R&B to me, and arguably to some music historians would say that R&B is really the foundation to all music. Given what I know now about the history of music and where it has come from, and that some of the same practices still exist, it's not, it's kind of easy to see how this would be the case right now as far as with R&B. R&B was the most ripped off, the most stolen, but it's primarily Black. You know what I mean? So, so basically the things that was being said recently, which wasn't true, is the fact that R&B is dead. R&B never was dead. It was just not being promoted by the majors. So you're not getting what you were getting some years ago, where every other week you're getting new R&B. You know what I'm saying? But not just in the market, but heavy in the market as far as on the major markets across the country. Where now you have to search for R&B because it's not being promoted in the mainstream marketplace, and with with the platinum stations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And being that you guys have written for people, I want to actually throw out this question to you. You have full autonomy by a label to create an album with you. You have full autonomy. You are the full writer, producer for the album. What artists would you choose to do an album with, and why? It can be from the past or present. Any artist, just one artist.
It's hard to nail that down. I don't know. I don't know. I would probably work with a lot of artists. But I think one of the things that I liked especially is working with new artists and being able to break them, you know what I mean? Break their, you know, put them in a different space. I mean, it's nothing, you know, it's no other feeling I could really describe as far as being able to come up with a concept in your mind and or a feeling, and you put that together, go in and lay some stuff down, and next thing you know, it's on the radio and it becomes a hit. There's no other feeling like that. So, and especially if it's somebody that you never heard of, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a whole nother adrenaline rush, you know? So I'm forgetting what the original question.
You kind of answered it. You said you would prefer. He asked you who would you like to write for or produce, and you said your passion is mainly with
new
working with new artists and breaking them. And I think you kind of answered my question, but I do want to confirm. So when most, like back in the 90s, when most people were trying to be in front of the camera, the thing I like about your group is you guys were equally exercising your rights behind not necessarily camera, but the mic. So LeVert, mainly you and Gerald started writing and producing for a lot of other groups. I named some of them today. Was the passion more for you on the singing side or the production side? Production, when I say production, I'm talking about production and writing.
Yeah. For me, the passion was more for the production and the music.
Yeah, I felt that.
Yeah.
For Gerald, it was the other way. He would live on stage if he could. You know what I mean? And yeah, so you know, and that's part of our chemistry too, is because, you know, in a lot of groups you have groups that's fighting for different positions. Who's gonna sing this, who's gonna sing that, who's the top guy, who's the lead singer, who's blah blah, whatever. In our situation, it was never discussed about lead singer. It was never a conversation like, well, I'm the lead singer and y'all just singing background, because it was never like that. It was like, you know, it was a flow. It was a chemistry. Like sometimes our chemistry was different to whereas like some songs, I would initiate the ideas and the writing and the concepts. Once I got with Gerald, then he would complement that or write a second verse. You know what I mean? Sometimes I did certain songs and I just did the song myself. So it's just a matter of, you know, the vibe and how it's going. And that's one thing, you know, coming up, you learn that, you know, some artists is not going to do the things that you think or that you know, necessarily want them to do. And sometimes you have to make those production calls to be like, okay, let me put so-and-so in the booth now and let them do this part. Or, you know, I think so-and-so would sing this part better. You know, it's just a part of the production process. And, you know, even the most talented singers sometimes have to be produced.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, and like you said, there were groups and they had to everybody had to kind of fight their way in, so forth. Many times there are a lot of friendly competition going on amongst competitors, music, sports, so forth. You have Magic and Bird, and I remember speaking with Marc Gay from Shy. He said him and Silk, Marc Gay from Shy, and he said him and Silk, the Shy and Silk, they kind of went back and forth sometimes because they're all on the same shows, and Silk could kick their butt one day and the next day they kick their butt. And it's right. Back and forth. Did you guys ever had any friendly competition with any groups?
Oh yeah, it's always that. Every show was, you know, some competition, and whether they knew it or not, it was like, yeah, we got to get them. You know what I mean? Whether if we went on before or after, it's like, and a lot of times we, you know, a few times we felt the heat too, so we had to, you know, sometimes you got to make those on stage calls to switch things up and game. You know what I mean? And so that happened also. You know, one time this is before we had. I want to say we had the independent record out, but we went to DC and one of the local groups had came out and they doing all the top 40 songs. They doing flips and back flips and head, all kinds of, and he's like, we kind of got a little worried because we weren't doing all the top 40 songs. We had a song out, so we had to do our song. We had to do, you know, we was doing relative stuff, but we had to, you know, switch the game up to try to overcome some of the acrobatics that was going on. And you know, it was all fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a fun time to be in the game. You know what I mean? To me, that was, you know, you talking about 80s, 90s. You know, it's no other time like that. I think for that time, it was probably, you know, even though there's more information out there right now, but there was in that time frame, especially the 90s, everybody was making money. So money was not even an issue. You know, your neighborhood crews was coming to the shows, bringing their ladies and this, that, and the other. So it was, you know, it was a good time. You know, it was a good time to come up in the game. You know, it didn't change, you know, the politics of the game, but it was a good time, you know.
Yeah. One thing about you, Marc, you've part of a lot of defining moments. I mean, when you look at just with the legacy that even with the OJs, and then you got the 80s, you guys are part of that. Created some monster smashes in the 80s and the 90s, and then you've basically had your fingerprints on a lot of the, you know, groups that are on my playlist. So what's next for Marc Gordon?
Right now I'm working on my story. So my story is going to be, you know, it's a part of, you know, my personal and my musical journey. And, you know, just some of the things that I feel like would make the story and, you know, make a story what it is, you know, just the human side of things. And, you know, some of the things that people may have been wondering about and they never knew. You know, there's a lot of questions that I've been asked before. So it's just a matter of, you know, and plus this is a way for me to, you know, there's a lot of weight that was on my shoulders at one point, and concerning Gerald's death and concerning the things that we had been going through prior to that. And, you know, so it's a way for me to get my story out there, clear the air on whatever. And, you know, and maybe somebody else can benefit from, you know, the information that's being put out there, you know. So that I'm still, you know, working on music, as you see in the background.
We see the background.
Definitely see it. Definitely see it.
So I'm still doing that. Okay. I'm moving into, you know, I'm moving into more of the film and that type of thing at this point, because I'm, you know, I want to work on film. I want to work on content that's, you know, that I think could matter to other people. So right now, you know, I haven't put it out there, but I'm gonna tell you all first. But I'm working on a documentary for one of my buddies from back in the day who was down with Death Row. And because I think that, you know, regardless of how big, small, or whatever, everybody got a story.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just a matter of whether or not your story is interesting to other people. That's, you know, the only difference. But I think there's stories that's, you know, that I believe would be interesting to the public and to, So that's the direction going in, just as and as you maybe or don't know, but music has evolved into something that they've created, several monsters. So now,
Absolutely.
So now my thinking is I have to create music in a different way. I have to create music, as a visual. I have to create music as a, with a marketing purpose, not just music. Back in the day, you could just, hey, we got a song and you send them the joint and that'll be that. But now you gotta, you need to, because they have devalued music so much, with the streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get full value from your creation that way. So my thing is you got to think of a different way on how to create the value for the music and whatever else you couple in with the music.
Mm-hmm. And then you one thing that you said, and I agree with, number one, you're a writer by nature, you're a creative by nature. So I feel like that's going to translate to film the same way it did with music. So I'm looking forward to the story. And you said the hope is that someone could benefit from your story. I think they will. What's a way that they could keep up with you just to kind of follow, I guess, the creative process and the filmmaking, the documentaries? Where can they find you on social media, Marc?
I'm on Instagram at Marc J. Gordon. I'm on Facebook, but I'm not really on there much. But Gordon, I think it's Marc.Gordon, but it's Marc Gordon. There's the LeVert page on Facebook is LeVert. And the one on Instagram is the real LeVert. Okay. So that's primarily, I have several YouTubes, and I'm about to amp all of that up. And, I have some, I got a few people that's following here and there, in between the LeVert and my personal. That's how you can get me there. But in the near future, you will be seeing some, definitely some promos on some things I'm working on.
Okay, and we in our channel, we anytime we have any guest on, we like to consider them family from now on. And whatever you have coming out, any kind of promo, anything, we will definitely make sure we put out on our end, because we appreciate you guys so much. You took the time out to speak with us, interview with us, and we just want to do whatever we can to help see your vision continue and grow and everything like that.
Yeah, well, that's what it's about. You know what I mean? I think if everybody, looked at it in that way and did that, then we as people would be, in a better place as far as how to control our intellectual property, how to control what we're doing. You know what I mean? I look at, I don't hate on the industry, but what I hate is the fact that people can't seem to admit when things is wrong or bad. It's like, if you've been taking advantage of a group of people or advantage of them as far as the music industry is concerned, then when does it come to a point where, we come to a mutual understanding to where like, it's nothing wrong. Hey, we can share in this. You put up so much, you get that back. But why have to be a situation where 30 years later, you still collecting money from something that's been recouped?
Yeah.
Where is that fit?
One party is in denial.
Say it again.
Yeah, one party is in denial. Like.
Oh yeah. No.
And they're greedy. They're greedy.
And that's fair. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, why should I be waiting for 30 years, then you recouped everything you're supposed to get years ago.
Yeah.
Years ago.
We got to even fight about this. I don't owe you any money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, that part of the business really, really taints the rest of it. And the only thing that keeps me, you know, like really, you know, going at this music thing is because I love the music.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I love the reactions. I love when people, you know, people come up to me and say, we got married to your song. We had our first 2 kids on with song and that song. Yo, there's no other feeling that's better than that, to be able to know that you touch people in the way that you did with music, with something, with a idea, with a, you know, with a thought that, you know, it is not a thought that you only come up with, but it's, you know, I think, you know, at some point we discovered that, you know, the songs that we were putting out at one point we were speaking for a lot of guys. And guys, you know, some guys would let you know that, you know, all I had to do was put that song on, and it was this, it was that, it was boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? So it was like, that to me, you know, it's a feel good. It's like, yo, you can't, you know, manufacture that feeling. You know what I'm saying? It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's what keeps my energy in music, is just the fact of getting those reactions and feeling like you can really do something that people understand and they get it and they live it. And, you know what I'm saying? And you spoke to them in some kind of way. And it's like, there's no other feeling like that. You know what I mean? So, so now I've been involved with some mental health situation, because, you know, after Gerald died, I realized there was the issue with just mental health and or, you know, just everyday things that happen. You don't take an artist to do it, but it's regular people. So my thing, I created a foundation called SOEL, SOEL, Saving Our Entertainers' Lives. And it's basically about mental health and the fact that, you know, a lot of our artists have fallen to mental health and prescription medications, this, that, and the other pertaining to, you know. So how is it that you can, you know, be in this treacherous game and survive it? You know, you got to have a real your foundation straight.
Gotta be.
Because too many stories to where is, you know, people have, you know, fell off and not been able to receive their full, you know, recognition or whatever the case, based on just the direction of, you know, where the industry will lead you, because it can lead you to that, because you know, I mean, so, but, you know, that's just a little bit of just some other stuff that I'm involved with, that I will be more involved with coming up. And that's part of the story too, to where I want people, I want people to get something out of that, to where it's not just about doing the music, because that part of it, you know, that's what it is, but it's all the other stuff that come with it, that challenges you as an artist, as a person, and how you handle it is whether or not you survive whatever it is. You know what I mean? If you don't handle it right, then that could take you down, you know, different roads that would challenge your life, or whatever the case. I mean, we're seeing it all the time now. You know what I mean? So, you know, we just have to be better, you know, better stewards of information to pass on to our next generations to show them how they should go about certain things and how to do things. Cause yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you're a student of that too. I think that's why your mindset is like that. I mean, you guys got information passed down from the OJs, and now you're doing us all a favor by, you know, that same technique, passing it down through the generation. So not only will us as fans be able to benefit from your story, I think other artists will as well. So I think that's the perfect way to continue the LeVert legacy. So so Marc, you've been a breath of fresh air. Looking forward to the story. Once again, fans, I urge you guys to go out and follow him. Just make sure that you're keeping track of it as well. Definitely love what this brother has been doing from behind the scenes and in front of the scenes since the 80s. Bill, you know, this is a group that we grew up on, but fans get a chance to say their 2 cents as well. As you guys always know, drop down in the comment section who you want us to target next to get on the show and hear their story. We're looking forward to that, Bill. And in the meantime, keep up with us as well. Our information's on the screen. Follow us on social media. Outside of that, Marc, it's been a pleasure. Everybody say peace.
Peace.